To get started with DolphinScheduler, you'll need to log in first. Once you're in, the first step is to create a tenant. In DolphinScheduler, a tenant is like a group that you can assign users to. This is important because users need to be assigned to a tenant to run tasks. You can assign a tenant to a user in the DolphinScheduler Security-User Manage page. After creating the tenant, you can start creating a workflow. But before that, you'll need to create a project first. Every workflow in DolphinScheduler belongs to a project. To create a project, click on the Create Project button on the DolphinScheduler project page. Now, you're ready to create a workflow for the project. To do this, click on the project you just created, go to the Workflow Definition page, and click the Create Workflow button. This will take you to the Workflow Detail page. To create tasks in the workflow, simply drag the task you want from the toolbar in the workflow canvas. For example, you can create a shell task by dragging it to the canvas, then enter the necessary information for the task. Make sure to fill in the attribute node name with a name for the task. After that, click the Save button to save the task into the workflow. You can create multiple tasks in the same way. Once you have tasks in the workflow, you'll need to add task dependency. You can do this by dragging an arrow from the upstream task to the downstream task. Now, you're ready to run the workflow. Simply click the Online button and then the Run button from the Workflows list. To view the workflow instance, go to the Workflow Instance page. Here, you can see the workflow instance running and the status is executing. If you want to view the task log, click on the workflow instance from the workflow instance list, find the task you want to view the log for, right-click the mouse and select View Log from the context dialog. This will show you the detailed log of the task. Let's move on to running a Trino task in DolphinScheduler. To do this, you'll need to use the data source module, which is used to manage all database connection information. First, you'll need to create a test data source before creating the production one. This is to separate the development and production environments. However, if you do not use the development environment, you can just make the development and production data source the same. To create a development data source, click the Create Data Source button on the data source page, fill in the necessary information, and then click the Save button to save the development data source. You can create the production data source in the same way, but when you select the production button, DolphinScheduler will ask you to connect the existing development data source. Select the data source you just created and click the Save button to save the production data source. Once you have created the production data source, you can use it in a SQL task. To create a SQL task, follow the same steps as creating a shell task, but select the SQL type instead of the shell type. In addition to the node name and SQL statement, you also need to select the data source type and data source instance before saving the task. For example, you can query the customer table in the TPCH catalog and Tiny database using the SQL statement. Select *from tpch.tiny.customer_limit10. To run the workflow with the SQL task, follow the same steps as before. To view the log of the SQL task, follow the same steps as well. In the log, you'll see the top 10 records of the customer.